At 17, he walked past a poster and froze because the missing boy staring back was him. Daniel Reed had always felt like something in his life didn't quite fit. Not in an obvious way, nothing dramatic, no screaming fights, no visible cracks. On the outside, everything looked normal. A small house, a quiet street, a mother who cared, maybe a little too much. But normal can hide a lot. Growing up, Daniel learned early that his mother, Karen, had rules. Not the usual be home before dark or finish your homework kind of rules. Her rules were different. No sleepovers. No visiting friends' houses without permission. No talking about personal history. That last one always stuck with him. At first, it didn't seem strange. Kids don't question their childhood when they're living it. But as Daniel got older, the silence around his past started to feel heavy. There were no baby photos in the house. None. Not in albums. Not on walls. Not even tucked away in drawers. When he asked about it at age 10, Karen smiled tightly and said, "We lost them when we moved." 13, he asked again. This time, she snapped. "Why are you so obsessed with the past? Focus on your future." That was the moment he stopped asking. But he didn't stop wondering. Daniel became observant. He noticed things, like how his birth certificate looked newer than it should, like how no relatives ever visited, not even during holidays, like how Karen avoided doctors unless absolutely necessary, and most of all, how she watched him, not casually, not lovingly, but constantly, as if she were afraid he might disappear. By 17, Daniel had learned to live with it, to ignore the unease, to convince himself that every family had quirks, until the day everything broke. It was raining that afternoon, a steady, gray drizzle that soaked through clothes and blurred the streets. Daniel had stayed late at school working on a project, and by the time he left, the sky had already turned dark. Halfway home, he ducked into a small convenience store to escape the rain. That decision would change his life forever. The bell above the door chimed as he entered. The store was quiet, empty, except for a cashier scrolling on her phone. Daniel wandered toward the back, shaking water from his jacket. That's when he saw it. Poster, faded, slightly torn at the edges, taped crookedly to the glass window. Most people wouldn't have noticed it, but Daniel did, because something about it felt wrong. He stepped closer, and then he froze. The poster showed a baby, round face, bright eyes, and a small, unmistakable birthmark just below the left ear. Daniel's breath caught in his throat. Slowly, almost mechanically, he reached up and touched his own neck. The same mark. "No," he whispered. Below the photo were bold words. Missing child. Name Ethan Cole. Last seen 2007. Age at disappearance 8 months. Daniel's heart began to race. But it wasn't just the baby photo. It was what came next. A digitally aged image. A projection of what Ethan might look like now. At 17, Daniel staggered back, because the face staring back at him was his. Not similar, not close, exact. Same eyes, same jawline, same slight curve of the lips. It was like someone had taken his reflection and printed it onto paper. The room felt smaller, the air heavier. That case was never solved, the cashier said casually, glancing up. Sad, right? Daniel couldn't respond, because in that moment, a single thought echoed in his mind. What if that's me? He left the store without buying anything. The rain didn't matter anymore. Nothing did. That night, Daniel sat in his room, staring at his reflection in the mirror, searching for differences, for proof, for anything that would tell him this was just a coincidence. But there was nothing, so he did the only thing he could think of. He opened his laptop and typed, "Ethan Cole missing," and the truth started to unravel. One search changed everything, because every result led back to him. Daniel locked his bedroom door the second he got home. Not out of habit, out of fear. The house felt different now. Every creak in the floorboards sounded louder. Every shadow stretched longer. Even the silence felt like it was watching him, waiting, He sat on the edge of his bed, staring at his laptop. His reflection stared back at him through the black screen. Same face, same eyes, the same face he had just seen on that poster. "No," he whispered under his breath. "It's just a coincidence." But even as he said it, he didn't believe it. Slowly, his fingers moved. The laptop opened. The glow of the screen lit up his face in the dim room. And with trembling hands, he typed, "Ethan Cole missing 2007. He hit search, and everything changed. The results flooded in instantly. Pages and pages of links. News reports, archived articles, forums, interviews. A life documented. A disappearance never forgotten." Daniel clicked the first link. "Infant abducted from hospital. Police seek suspect." His heart began to pound as the article loaded. May 17, 2007. An 8-month-old baby named Ethan Cole was abducted from St. Mary's Hospital late Tuesday evening. Witnesses report seeing a woman dressed as a nurse leaving the building shortly before the disappearance was discovered. Daniel leaned closer. His breathing slowed, not out of calm, but because his body was trying to process something it didn't understand. He scrolled. Security footage was inconclusive. The suspect has not been identified. Authorities believe this may have been a planned abduction. Planned. The word echoed in his mind. No, this doesn't make sense. He clicked another link. Then another. Then another. Each one told the same story. Different words. Same horror. And then, he saw the photos. A gallery of images filled the screen. A baby. Round cheeks. Bright eyes. A small blanket wrapped tightly around him. Daniel froze, because he recognized that blanket. Not from memory, but from something deeper. Something instinctive. He zoomed in, and there it was, just below the left ear. The birthmark. His birthmark. Daniel's hand shot to his neck again. Fingers pressing against the skin as if to confirm it was still there. Still real. "This isn't possible," he whispered. But it was. He clicked on a video next. The screen flickered, and then a woman appeared. Her face was pale, eyes swollen, voice trembling. "My son was taken from his crib," she said, barely holding herself together. "I turned my back for just a second, and he was gone." Daniel's chest tightened. "I just want him back," she continued. "I don't care how long it takes. I don't care what it costs. I just want my baby back." Something inside Daniel shifted. He didn't know why, but hearing her voice felt like something was breaking open inside him. The video cut to a man standing beside her. Strong, controlled, but clearly shattered. "We won't stop looking," he said firmly. "Not ever." Daniel paused the video. His reflection appeared faintly on the screen, overlapping the man's face, and for a brief moment, felt like he was looking at himself. "No," he said, shaking his head. "This doesn't mean anything." But it did. He kept digging, scrolling through years of updates, false leads, dead ends, hope that rose and collapsed. Then he found something buried deeper, a detail that made his blood run cold. Suspect believed to be a female posing as hospital staff. Daniel leaned back slowly. A nurse. Karen was a nurse. His stomach twisted. "No, that's just a coincidence," he muttered quickly. "Lots of nurses exist. That doesn't mean." But the thought wouldn't go away. Instead, it grew louder, stronger, more impossible to ignore. He opened another tab. This time, he searched something else. How to know if you were kidnapped as a child. The results were terrifying. No early childhood records. Inconsistent birth documentation. Overprotective guardian. Isolation from extended family. Daniel's breathing became uneven. Every single one matched his life. "No," he whispered. No. He stood up abruptly, started pacing, running his hands through his hair. "This is crazy. I'm just overthinking. This is nothing." But deep down, he knew it wasn't nothing. He sat back down, and then he saw it. A discussion forum. Hundreds of people talking about the case. He clicked. Comments filled the screen. That kid would be around 17 now. He could literally be walking around with no idea who he is. Daniel stared at the words. Imagine growing up your whole life not knowing you were stolen. His chest tightened. He could be anywhere. Different name, different family, completely different life. Daniel's hands started shaking again. That's me, he whispered. The realization hit him like a wave. Not slowly, not gently, all at once. Everything he thought he knew about his life started to fall apart. Then, a knock at the door. Daniel jumped. Daniel, Karen's voice called. His heart slammed against his chest. He slammed the laptop shut so fast it nearly slipped off the desk. Yeah, he called back, trying to sound normal. Why is your door locked? His mind raced. I just needed quiet, he said. Silence. Then footsteps. Slow, measured, approaching the door. Daniel's stomach dropped. Open it, she said. Something in her voice had changed. It wasn't warm anymore. It was sharp, cold. Daniel hesitated, then stood up, walked to the door, and unlocked it. The door creaked open. Karen stood there. Her eyes immediately scanned the room. The desk, the laptop. Daniel, you've been acting strange, she said. I'm fine. She didn't believe him. He could see it in her face. She stepped inside, slowly, closing the door behind her. Did you go somewhere after school? She asked. Daniel froze. The question felt like a trap. I just came home, he said carefully. She tilted her head, studying him. You're lying, she said. His chest tightened. I'm not. What did you see? She interrupted. Silence filled the room. Daniel's mind screamed at him to deny everything, to shut it down, to pretend none of this ever happened. But something inside him refused. A poster, he said quietly. Her expression changed, just slightly, but enough. What kind of poster? She asked. Daniel swallowed. A missing kid. Silence. He looks exactly like me. For a split second, fear flashed across her face. Real fear. And in that moment, Daniel knew this wasn't a coincidence. This was the truth. But then, just as quickly, her expression shifted. The fear disappeared, replaced by something else. A smile. But it wasn't real. It was tight, controlled, almost forced. Coincidences happen, she said. Daniel shook his head slowly. No, he said. Not like this. The air in the room felt heavier. Karen stepped closer. Too close. You need to stop digging, she said quietly. The words weren't a suggestion. They were a warning. Daniel felt a chill run down his spine. Why? He asked. She didn't answer. Instead, she just stared at him. And in that stare, when he finally asked the truth, she didn't deny it. She warned him. Daniel didn't sleep that night, not even for a second. He lay on his bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to every sound in the house. The ticking clock, the hum of the refrigerator, the faint creak of footsteps, or maybe just his imagination. But every time he closed his eyes, he saw it. The poster, the face, his face, and then Karen's reaction. That moment, barely a second, when fear broke through her expression, played over and over in his mind. That wasn't nothing, he whispered to himself. That was real. By morning, Daniel had made a decision. He couldn't ignore this anymore. He couldn't pretend everything was normal, because nothing was normal. The truth was sitting right in front of him, and the only person who could confirm it was downstairs. The smell of breakfast filled the house. Eggs, toast, coffee. Ordinary, painfully ordinary. Daniel walked into the kitchen slowly. Karen stood at the stove, her back to him, moving calmly, too calmly. Morning, she said without turning around. Daniel didn't respond right away. He just watched her, trying to understand something that suddenly felt impossible to understand. Sit, she said, placing a plate on the table. He obeyed. For a moment, Everything felt normal again, like last night had never happened, like the truth hadn't cracked open his world. But then, he spoke. "I found him." Karen froze. Not dramatically, not obviously, but just enough. Her hands stopped moving. The spatula hovered mid-air. "The boy on the poster," Daniel continued. "His name is Ethan Cole." Silence. The kind of silence that feels loud, heavy, dangerous. Karen slowly turned around. Her face was calm, but her eyes were different. "What about him?" she asked. Daniel held her gaze. "He was kidnapped," he said, "taken from a hospital by someone pretending to be a nurse." A flicker, again, tiny, but unmistakable. "And?" she said. Daniel leaned forward slightly. "And you're a nurse." The words hung in the air. Karen didn't respond, didn't move, didn't even blink. "I think you know something," Daniel said. Still nothing. "Actually," he added, his voice tightening, "I think you know everything." A long pause followed. Then, Karen smiled. But it wasn't warm. It wasn't reassuring. It was controlled, carefully constructed. "You're imagining things," she said. Daniel shook his head. "No," he said quietly. "I'm not." He reached into his pocket, pulled out his phone, opened the photo he had taken of the poster, and placed it on the table between them. Karen's eyes dropped to it. For a moment, just a moment, everything slipped. The mask cracked. Fear. Real, raw fear. Then, it was gone. "You shouldn't have taken that," she said calmly. Daniel felt his chest tighten. "Why?" he asked. She looked up at him. "Because you don't understand what you're dealing with." That answer sent a chill through him. "Then explain it," he said. Another pause, longer this time. And then, she said it. "I saved you." The words hit like a shockwave. Daniel blinked. "What?" he said. "I saved you," she repeated, her voice steady now. "You think this is some crime? Some horrible thing I did to you?" She stepped closer. "You have no idea what your life would have been like." Daniel stood up slowly. "No," he said. "You don't get to twist this." Her expression hardened. "I gave you everything," she said. "A home, stability, a future. You stole me," Daniel snapped. The word hung in the air. Stole. Karen didn't deny it, didn't argue. Instead, she tilted her head slightly, studying him. "You're alive, aren't you?" she said. Daniel felt a wave of anger rise in his chest. "That's not the point." "It is the point," she replied sharply. "You think those people could have given you what I did? Those people. Not your parents. Not your family. Just those people." Daniel's voice dropped. "They've been looking for me," he said. "For 17 years. Karen's eyes darkened. "And what?" she snapped. "You think that makes them better? You think that means anything?" "It means everything," Daniel shouted. Silence fell again. Thick, unstable. Karen took a slow breath, then stepped even closer. So close Daniel could see every detail in her face. Every line, every crack. "If you go to them," she said quietly, "everything changes." Daniel didn't flinch. "It already has." Her jaw tightened. "You'll lose me," she said. Daniel stared at her. For a moment, there was something there. Something real. Not manipulation. Not control. Fear. But it didn't change anything. "I never had you," he said. The words hit harder than he expected. Karen froze. And for the first time, she looked hurt. Not angry. Not defensive. Hurt. But it didn't last. It never did. Her expression shifted again. Cold. Closed. "You don't know what you're doing," she said. "Then tell me," Daniel replied. "Tell me everything." Another silence. But this time, felt different. Like something was about to break. And then, she laughed. Soft at first. Then louder. Not a happy laugh. A hollow one. "You think you're ready for the truth?" she said. Daniel didn't respond, because he didn't know if he was. But he knew one thing. He couldn't go back. 17 years. she continued. 17 years I gave you a life, and now you want to throw it away because of a poster. It's not just a poster, Daniel said. It's my identity. No, she snapped. It's a story, one you don't understand. Then make me understand. The room felt like it was closing in. Karen's breathing slowed. Her eyes locked onto his. And then, she whispered, "Some truths destroy people." A chill ran down Daniel's spine. "Is that supposed to scare me?" he asked. She didn't answer, but she didn't need to, because in that moment, Daniel realized something even more terrifying than the truth itself. Karen wasn't just hiding something. She was afraid of what would happen if it came out. And not just for herself. For him. "You need to stop," she said again. But this time, it didn't sound like a warning. It sounded like a plea. Daniel shook his head slowly. "I can't." And that's when everything changed. Karen's face went still. Completely still. "No?" she said softly. Daniel didn't answer, because suddenly, he felt it. A shift. The air. The tension. Her presence. Everything. And for the first time in his life, he felt afraid of her. Not uncomfortable. Not uneasy. Afraid. "Then you leave me no choice," she said. Daniel's heart skipped. "What does that mean?" he asked. But she didn't answer. She just turned. Walked away. Leaving him standing there, in a house that suddenly didn't feel like home anymore. And in that moment, Daniel understood something he couldn't ignore. This wasn't just about the past anymore. This was about what she might do next. The DNA results came back, and confirmed the one thing he feared most. Daniel didn't wait. He couldn't. The moment Karen walked away that night, something inside him shifted. Whatever fear had been holding him back was gone, replaced by something stronger. Urgency. He locked himself in his room again, hands shaking as he picked up his phone. For a moment, he hesitated, because once he made this call, there would be no going back. Then he dialed the number from the poster. It rang once, twice, 3 times. Then, "Missing persons hotline. How can I help you?" Daniel's throat went dry. I think you're looking for me." Silence. "I'm sorry," the voice replied. "My name is Daniel," he said, his voice barely steady. "But I think I'm Ethan Cole." Everything after that happened fast. Too fast. Questions. So many questions. "Where are you? How old are you? Do you have any identifying marks?" Daniel answered all of them. Every single one. And with each answer, the silence on the other end grew heavier. "Stay where you are," the voice finally said. "We're sending someone to you." Daniel hung up slowly. His hands were still shaking. But now, it wasn't just fear. It was something else. The truth was coming, and there was nothing he could do to stop it. The police arrived within the hour. 2 officers, 1 detective. They didn't treat him like a suspect. They treated him like something fragile, something important. "Daniel," the detective said gently, "we're going to ask you a few questions, okay?" He nodded. "Do you know why you think you might be Ethan Cole?" Daniel took a deep breath. "The poster," he said. "The birthmark, the photos, everything matches." The detective exchanged a look with the officers, then nodded. "We're going to run a DNA test," he said. "Just to be sure." Daniel swallowed. "Okay." The process felt surreal. A simple swab, a sample taken, something so small, about to answer the biggest question of his life. As they finished, one of the officers stepped outside. "Who else is in the house?" the detective asked. Daniel hesitated. "My mom." The word felt strange now, uncertain. "Is she home?" Daniel nodded. Before he could say anything else, a voice cut through the hallway. "What's going on?" "Karen." She stood at the end of the hall, eyes locked onto the scene. The officers, the detective, Daniel, everything froze. For a split second, no one moved. Then the detective stepped forward. "Ma'am, we need to ask you a few questions." Karen's gaze shifted slowly to Daniel. And in that look, there was no confusion, no surprise, only realization. You called them, she said quietly. Daniel didn't respond. He didn't need to. Her expression changed. Not panic, not anger, something colder. You shouldn't have done that, she said. The officers moved closer. Ma'am, we need you to come with us. Karen didn't resist. She didn't argue. She just stood there, looking at Daniel. For a moment, it felt like time stopped, like everything they had shared. Every meal, every conversation, every memory was hanging in the air between them. You don't understand, she said softly. Daniel felt his chest tighten. Then explain it, he replied. But she didn't. Instead, she just shook her head and allowed the officers to take her away. The house felt empty after that. Too quiet, too still. Daniel sat on the couch, staring at nothing, waiting for hours. The DNA test results wouldn't come immediately. He knew that, but it didn't matter, because deep down, he already knew. 2 days later, the call came. Daniel, the detective said, his voice steady but serious. We have the results. Daniel's heart pounded. Okay. There was a pause. Then, it's a match. The words hit harder than anything else so far. 99.9%, the detective continued. You are Ethan Cole. Silence filled the room. Daniel couldn't speak, couldn't think, because in that moment, everything he had ever known about himself disappeared. He started, but the words wouldn't come. We've contacted your biological parents, the detective said gently. They want to meet you. Daniel closed his eyes. Biological parents. The words felt foreign. Okay, he whispered. The meeting was arranged quickly. Too quickly. Daniel wasn't ready, but he didn't know if he ever would be. The room was small, plain, neutral. A table, 3 chairs, a door. Daniel sat alone, his hands clasped tightly together. His mind raced. What do you say? What do you do? How do you face people who lost you before you even knew them? The door opened, and everything changed. A woman stepped in first. Her eyes locked onto him instantly, and then she broke. Her hand flew to her mouth as tears spilled down her face. Oh my God, she whispered. Behind her, a man stood frozen, his expression unreadable, like he didn't trust what he was seeing. Ethan, the woman said, her voice shaking. Daniel felt his chest tighten. That name, it was his, but it didn't feel like it. He stood slowly. He began, but the words caught in his throat, because he didn't know what to say, didn't know what to feel. The woman stepped closer. Then suddenly, she wrapped her arms around him, tightly, desperately, like she was afraid he might disappear again. Daniel froze. His arms stayed at his sides, because he didn't feel what she felt. He didn't remember her. I missed you, she cried. I never stopped looking for you. Her words broke something in the room. The man stepped forward next, slower, more controlled. But his eyes said everything. He placed a hand on Daniel's shoulder, and for a moment, no one spoke. Then Daniel finally found his voice. I'm sorry, he said quietly. The woman pulled back, confused. I don't remember you. The words hit harder than anything else. She stepped back, like she had been struck. And just like that, the reunion everyone had dreamed of for 17 years fell apart, because the truth wasn't simple. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't a happy ending. It was complicated, painful, real. And Daniel, or Ethan, was stuck in the middle of it all. Not fully one person, not fully the other, just someone trying to figure out who he really was. He found his real family, but lost the only life he ever knew. Karen was arrested, charged, convicted. Her defense? I loved him, but love doesn't erase a crime. Daniel visited her once. Why did you do it? He asked. She looked at him. Because I needed you. Not sorry, not regretful, just selfish. And that was the truth he had to live with. 2 lives, 2 identities, 2 mothers, and no way to undo the past.